A book by John Steinbeck of Mice and Men. A drop mile south of Soledad, the Salinas River drops in close to the high side bank, run deep and green. The water is warm too, for it has leapt twinkling over the yellow sands in the sunlight before reaching the narrow pool. On one side of the river, the golden foot hill slopes curve up the strong and rocky Gabelines Mountains, but on the valley side, the water is lined with trees, willows fresh and green with every spring carrying in their lower leaf junctures the debris of the winter flooding, and the sycamores with the mottled white recumbent limb and the branches that arc over the pool. On the sandy bank under the trees, the leaves lie deep and so crisp that a lizard makes a great skittering if he runs among them. Rabbits come out of the brush to sit on the sand in the evening, and the damp flats are covered with the night track of the coons, and with the spread pad of dogs from the ranches, and with the split wedge track of the deer that comes to the drink in the dark. There is a path through the meadow and among the sycamores, a path beaten hard by the boy coming down from the ranches to swim in the deep pool, and beaten hard by the tramps who come wearily down from the highway in the evening to the jungle up near water. In front of the low horizontal limb of the giant sycamore that is an ash pile made by many fires. The limb is worn or smoothed by men who have sat on it. Evening of a hot day stir the little wind to moving among the leaves. The shed climbed up the hill towards the top. On the sandbank the rabbit sat as quietly as little grey sculpture stone, and then from directions of the state highway came the sound of the footstep on the crisp sycamore's leaf. The rabbit hurried noiselessly for cover. A stilted heron levered up into the air and pounded down river. For a moment the place was lifeless, and then two men emerged from the path and came into the opening by the green pool. They had walked in single file down the path, and even in the open one, stayed behind the other. Both were dressed in denim trousers and denim coats with the brass button. Both wore black, shapeless hats, and both carried tight blanket rolls slung over their shoulders. The first man was small and quick, dark of face, with the restless eyes and sharp, strong feature. Every part of him was defined: small, strong hand, slender arm, a thin and bony nose. Behind him walked his opposite, a huge man, shapeless of face, with large pale eyes, with wide sloping shoulders, and he walked heavily, dragging his feet a little. The way of bear dragged his pole. His arm did not swing at his sides, but hung loosely. The first man stopped short in the clearing, and the follower nearly ran over him. He took off his hat and whipped the sweatband with his forefinger and snapped the moisture off. His huge companion dropped his blanket and flung himself down and drank from the surface of the green pool, drank with long gulps, shooting into the water like a horse. The small man stepped nervously beside him. "Lenny," he said sharply. "Lenny, for God's sake, don't drink so much." Lenny continued to shoot into the pool. The small man leaned over and shook him by the shoulder. "Lenny, you're gonna be sick like you was last night." Lenny dipped his whole head under, head and all, and then he sat up on the bank and his head dripped down on his blue coat and ran down his back. "That's good," he said. "You drink more, George. You take a good big drink." He smiled happily. George unslung his bundle and dropped it gently on the bank. "I ensure it's good water," he said. "Look kindly scummy." Lenny dabbed his big paw in the water and wiggled his fingers so the water rose in a little splash. Ring widened across the pool to the other side and came back again. Lenny watches them go. "Look, George, look what I've done." George kneeled beside the pool and drank from his hand with a quick scoop. "Tastes all right," he admitted. "Don't really seems to be running." "True, you never ought to drink water when it ain't running, Lenny," he said hopelessly. "Well, you drink out of a gutter if you was thirsty." He threw a scoop of water into his face and rubbed it about with his hand, under his chin and around the back of his neck. Then he replaced his hat, pushed himself back from the river, drew out his knee, and emerged them. The knee, who had been watching, limited George exactly, and he pushed himself back, drew out his knee, and Bresdam looked over George to see whether he had it just right. He pulled his head down a little more over his eyes, the way George had was. George stared mournfully at the water.